Ready to have a deeper conversation about body and soul, sacred leadership, and our collective evolution? Welcome to the Wise Body Ancient Soul podcast with me, your host, Charisse Sisou. Everything you need to know is in your body. So we've been taught to treat our bodies, especially if, especially if we identify as female or came in with female parts. There's a lot of messaging around treating our bodies like ongoing projects. I find that this is less and less of a gendered conversation. Do you know what I mean? We're all getting these messages around needing to look a certain way or what have you, right? That's not what this video is. This is not what this episode is about. What it's about is releasing that programming, exchanging it for a different approach to this sacred vessel, to what Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, the author of Women Who Run with the Wolves, what she would call your divine consort, your loyal consort, right? Our bodies, they are with us from first breath to last breath. They stick with us no matter how we treat them, pretty much, until we treat them beyond repair, and then, but the reason why I say that is because we'll often treat our bodies in ways that we wouldn't treat a child or our best friend. We'll have to pee and we'll make ourselves wait because we're busy right now. Or I'm hungry, but I got this other thing, so I'm going to wait. You know what I mean? We delay our own pleasure. We put work in front of joy rather than finding where those things can intersect. And, the list goes on, right? I mean, you can think about today. How many times did your body have an impulse that you resisted? Oh, if I could just take a nap. Oh, it's so beautiful out. Can I just take a little walk? There's no time for that. So we have this push-pull with our bodies, right? And what I am such a champion for, and what I'm here to remind us about today, is how our bodies are our loyal consorts, loyal beyond measure, from first to last breath, and our bodies hold the wisdom of all who have come before us. In our bones, in our blood, is the DNA of our ancestors, right? And it's this signature, right, that is not that different from anyone else's on the planet. These tiny, tiny differences. So the way that we're connected in this very structural way, in the very body that we inhabit, is so profound. Because I find that very often when we're trying to make a decision, when we have questions, we go here. I call this our little brain. Your body is your big brain. This is where the answers are, my friends, right? The real answers. I'm not gonna lie to you answers, right? Because our brain will say, here is the strategic thing to do. Our heart will say, if you're anything like me, and you're like a nurturer, a caretaker, one of my ongoing areas for growth and improvement is like boundaries, taking care of myself at the same time as I take care of others. That's why I became such a master at it, because I had to be, because I was like, let's give it all away, and the shirt off my back, and, you know, more energy than I have, and more money than I have, and more blah, 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 right? So there's a lot of that to like unlearn and restructure so that I could be like a functioning person who didn't have to like struggle. And this, when we start to really tune in and trust our body's wisdom. So I remember years ago, I saw a documentary, and I cannot remember what company he was the head of. It was a Japanese businessman, CEO, or, you know, that C-suite level of a big company that we would all recognize, that I don't remember the name of off the top of my head, because I saw this documentary when I was a kid. So maybe it was like Nissan or Toyota or Mitsubishi, or like something like some company that, you know, or Sony, right? Where we'd be like, aha. So, and I was a kid watching this documentary, and I remember him talking about how before making any decision, he would he'd swallow it, and he'd swallow the answer, or the answer that he was considering, and he'd see how it felt in his body. I never forgot that, because I was like, this guy's responsible for a lot of people. He makes decisions that impact, you know, all the hundreds / thousands of people in his company. And then beyond that, the thousands / millions of people that his company serves. And he, of course, you know, talks to his board of advisors, the rest of his team, gets the input from the people. But in the end, when he's making an important decision, he lets his body make the call. And that always stayed with me. And this is what I've found to be true throughout my life, and especially as the chief executive priestess of my own business, is that anytime I went against what my body was saying, I regretted it. Like, your body is your intuition. Your body is your intuition. I'm just going to say it again. Your body is your intuition. We have been taught to discount not only our body's needs, but even the messages that we receive. Like, we'll put stuff in our bodies that's literally poison. I don't want to be like all contentious or whatever, but like we'll put stuff in our bodies that really isn't food. But because marketing is like, but do it anyway. And even though, you know, our body will like get inflamed or be like, you know, we've learned how to ignore that. Ignore those signals, ignore the aches and pains, the foggy brain, the not feeling so hot after eating, the excess weight, whatever it looks like, right? We've been taught to like, oh, no. That's, you know, that has nothing to do with this thing. But, you know, when we really start to clear those connections and really start paying attention, what does my body desire? What is my body saying as I consider this thing? Do I feel excited? Do I feel, and it doesn't have to be like, like fireworks, you know, because, you know, we got to do stuff that is not always going to be the most exciting stuff in the world. And I will say that, like, we can have teams, systems can take care of a lot of stuff. Like, you don't want to be putting, you know, one of the key things to keeping our energy high is to not be expending it on activities that, you know, tank us, right? Or bring us down. But when you start to just pay attention, and I would say start with small questions, little questions. How do I feel about this phone call that's coming up? Do I feel like a tickle of excitement, Am I nerve-sighted, right? Which is usually a positive thing. Or does it feel like a wah-wah, right? And it can be subtle. It can be subtle. It can just be a little like, huh? Huh. And this is a nifty trick. If this idea of asking your body its opinion, her opinion, his opinion, its non-binary opinion, right? Gender neutral opinion. And I'm serious about that. Like, I don't mean that facetiously. It's like, I identify as female, so I'll call her, right? And for you, it may be totally different. All are welcome here, yeah, and encouraged here. And but when we start to ask these questions, what feels good? What feels good in my body right now? It really starts to clear the chaff, doesn't it? Because this is what I found to be true. It's only when we ignore what our body is saying and let our brain say something else, or our ego, and bless the ego. The ego is there to protect us, to keep us safe. You know, the ego is a powerful partner to get on board with you. And the ego might have a different agenda than what your deepest, highest, wisest self is wanting to do right now. But what's that unbroken connection, not only with your wisest self, but the constellation of your connections to your ancestors, to your extra dimensional beings, to the vast network of support, all tapped in through our bodies, right? Our connection with Gaia, with Earth. We are of her, right? So when we deny the body, we deny all these connections, right? I think we've been bamboozled into thinking that the only way that we can kind of connect with all that is like through here, like that it's above us, outside of us. And what we once knew long ago, what many of our Indigenous and First Nation people still know, is that everything we need to know is right here. It's not out there, it's in here. It's in our connection with our body, which is connected to the earth, which is connected to all that is, which is connected to every other being on the planet, in really tangible, measurable, like you can see it under a microscope kind of ways, right? So I just encourage you to start checking in with your body first. Does this feel good? Is this a yes or a no? Right? So I'm going to give you two tools. There was one that popped in earlier that I started to tell you about, and then I distracted myself and continued the story. But two tools I want to share with you right now. One I learned from a coach many years ago, of just like, if you're making a decision between one thing and another, right? And she would put like one option on one piece of paper and the other option on another piece of paper, lay them down on the floor, right? And then basically, you're like, okay, this is option A, this is option B. To consider option A, you stand on option A. How does my body feel? Choosing option A. So there's like kind of like a visual, tactile, like, okay, now I am considering this. Whoosh, you can put some keywords on, it doesn't have to be like A, B, like be like, yes to the dress, no to the opportunity, whatever it is, right? Boop, boop. And how does your body feel? Does it feel like, or is it, or is it kind of a, meh, right? If it's a meh, that's not an enthusiastic yes. We're looking for an enthusiastic yes, a whole body yes, right? And sometimes that whole body yes, it doesn't have to look like fireworks. It can just be like, yeah, I definitely want a strawberry instead of a blueberry. Who am I kidding? So, and I encourage you to like practice this with the little stuff first, okay? Like, if this is a new approach for you, or you're like, you know what I mean? Or you're starting to, and it happens to all of us, myself included, where we start to get into our heads, we start to get into our egos, we start to get into anything but the truth. Scale it back, right? Scale it back. Start with something easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Do I want a blueberry or a strawberry? Do I want coffee or tea? Do I want to stand up right now or to sit down, right? Like, just make it simple, physical if you can, right? Keep it easy. Keep it easy. Okay. And then here's the other tool. This I just, so I am a, how do they call it? I'm clairsentient, right? So when I have an intuition about something, I feel it in my body, right? It's part of why I talk and teach about this stuff, because I kind of came in equipped, right? Some people see things, some people hear things, and I will sometimes see things, sometimes hear things. Like very often, like, these are spectrums. It's not like we have to like choose a bucket and we only get that one bucket. But for mostly, I feel it in my body. I get chills. I'll get a feeling like my knees will go weak when it's like truth. You know what I mean? Like, I'll get these like little, my scalp will tickle and or prickle. I'll feel it. I'll feel like a flush, like when I let something go, or when there's been like a shift or a transformation at the soul level, I'll feel it like a flush over my body, almost as if like a part of me is blushing, right? Because I'll literally feel like whatever was blocked, the energy will flow again, and it's just like, right? So this is old hat for me, and you can always learn new tricks. So I was at an event and bumped into an old friend, and he reminded me, like, because he was like, well, check in. Did you body test it? I was making a decision. It was a very minor, like, I was at a vending booth, like, do I want to buy this scarf or not? And he's like, body test it. And I was like, yeah. Okay, how do you body test, right? And this is what he said to do. Take the thing, right, that you're considering. And if it's like a sofa, obviously you can't hold it against your heart, but you could like think of the idea, right? And then, just like stand, think of like feel into it. Does your body sway forward? That's a yes. Or does it sway back? That's a no. Fun, right? Yes, your body is a dowsing rod. Did I mention that? Dowsing is a whole other conversation. We will have that in another episode. And easy peasy lemon squeezy. So, right, you can do the paper on the floor exercise, right? Where it's like literally like stepping from one to the other to feel how it feels in your body. Or this one of just like, if it's a yes, like a lovely yes, no, like that, and then this is a fun story. I'll just share this because about that scarf. So I was like body testing it, and my body was like totally like leaning back, but because my brain was like, but I really kind of want it. Like, I could feel the internal, like, where my body was like, you really don't need this. I know that it's speaking to some part of your desire right now. It was a really pretty color, but it was made with a particular like healing technology, and my body was like, you don't need that, you already got that, and I highly recommend doing this. I highly recommend doing this before you work with anyone. If you're like interviewing an energy healer, a psychic, like, test in your body, because your body knows. Your body is picking up signals from that other person's body that you're not even aware of because they're happening on this subterranean level. My DNA is talking to your DNA right now. They're having this whole side conversation. You are receiving from me, actually, in this moment, more than what you're seeing and hearing. I know this to be true because I know how people respond to me, right? When I speak or when I'm in the room. And you notice this too, right? I know that you've had people go, oh, I just feel so good when I'm around you. Oh, you're so calming. You just have such a calming presence. You just have such a healing presence. Like, I can't help but feel better around you, right? Hello? Yes? Yeah, right? These are my people, okay? Like, we are here to do this work. We are wired for this work. We came in with tools from past lives, other dimensions, other planets, all kinds of stuff, right? So that we could do this work. And this is why the body is so powerful, because our brain that's been conditioned in this 3D world can't even wrap around the infinite gift that is this body. So with that, I'm going to leave you to it. And I want to know, if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below. If you are, listening to this in a podcast, shoot us an email, send us a message. I want to know, did you try any of these tools? How did they work for you? Did they raise more questions that we can answer, right? So, and just what does this feel like? This idea of my body is my deepest, most profound, and most accurate source of wisdom, resource. I want to hear from you. Thanks for joining me on Wise Body, Ancient Soul. I hope it reminds you how powerful and magical you truly are. If you're looking to connect more deeply with the wisdom your body and soul carry, it would be my honor to guide you. Check out my website to learn how else we can play together. And if you feel so moved, kindly subscribe, rate, and review this podcast so more juicy light bringers like you can hear these transmissions. Here's to your joy and wild success. From my heart to yours, I love you. Take what you need and pass it on.